Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A Quinnipiac University poll released this week finds Zohran Mamdani has a commanding lead in the race for mayor. Among the likely voters surveyed, 45% said they would vote for Mamdani, with 23% for Andrew Cuomo, followed by Curtis Sliwa and Eric Adams at 15% and 12% respectively. The results are similar to polls released earlier this week by Emerson College and Siena University. But Quinnipiac also looked at what the race might look like if Mayor Eric Adams decided to drop out, leaving a three-way race between Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa. And joining me now to talk about all of this is Mary Snow. She is the Quinnipiac University Poll Assistant Director. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Bobby.
So talk about what we learned from this poll, big picture. I mean, Zohran Mamdani seems to be in the driver's seat, right? Does he have anything to worry about?
In a nutshell, it's really his race to lose at this moment. And we always want to remind everybody this is a snapshot in time. A lot can happen before November. But big picture, if you look at how likely voters are feeling in New York City right now, we have about 2/3 of them who say they are dissatisfied. And that really signals that they're not going to be happy with the status quo. So that kind of gives you a sense of where we're at in this race with his numbers so high.
Right. There's been so much talk about whether Mayor Adams might potentially drop out of the race, whether he could get a job working in the Trump administration. And so you guys asked about that specific scenario, right? With no Mayor Adams in the race, what happens if it's a three-person race?
We
right?
did look at that scenario using second choices among Adams supporters. And what we see is even in that situation, Mamdani still has a double-digit lead over Andrew Cuomo. And we see that Cuomo picks up some support, particularly among some Democrats, independents, more moderates. But so does Curtis Sliwa, a small bit, but he does get a bump.
Right. So Andrew Cuomo, I mean, I'm also fascinated when you guys dig into personal traits, right? You guys ask about how they rank on different measures of character. And, you know, most voters say that Cuomo doesn't care about the needs and problems of people like you. And when they're asked if he's honest, most people say no, but they also say that he has good leadership skills, right?
That is his silver lining in this poll. Those numbers on the character traits were pretty brutal. But for Andrew Cuomo, one thing that I noticed digging into those numbers, most categories, not all, agree that he has strong leadership skills. Perhaps not so surprising because he was the governor. People know who he is. Of course, there is one big exception, and that is young voters. Mamdani certainly has the vote among young voters dominating there. But the strong leadership skills were strong for Andrew Cuomo.
Right. But also, I mean, that all adds up to high unfavorabilities, right? I mean, Mamdani has high favorabilities. All the other candidates are in negative territory, right? They have higher unfavorables than they have favorables.
Not the most liked group on the ballot this year. Yes, Mamdani does have a positive score. Curtis Sliwa mixed, but certainly Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams have negative scores.
Let me ask you a question about methodology, because we know young people went out for Mamdani in huge numbers in the primary, and we also saw a lot of first-time voters, right? He energized people who hadn't come out and voted before. How do you guys account for that when you're polling?
Well, we did find that 16% of the likely voters we spoke to are first-time voters, and the majority are backing Mamdani.
Right. As far as policy proposals, you guys asked specifically about increasing taxes on the wealthy, which is one of, a big part of Mamdani's platform. And I'm always blown away when this is asked about in polls, because there's always overwhelming support for taxing the wealthy, including in this one.
This is a strong number. We're seeing about 6 and 10, roughly. And it is now we did ask the wealthiest New Yorkers whether this, if people consider themselves the wealthiest New Yorkers, but that is a very strong number. When we ask that question, would you be in favor of taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers to pay for programs and initiatives in New York?
Right. I know you guys don't give any prescriptions to candidates, but like, what do we take away from this? When you look at Andrew Cuomo and the favorability numbers and the personal traits, like, what does that say to him as a candidate? Is there anything that he can do with that information in his campaign?
There are two things. One, looking at the issues. We asked 9 issues, which is the most important in deciding how to choose your candidate. And individually, crime tops the list, but right with it is housing affordability and inflation. And if you look at that economic bucket, economic concerns are even top the crime. And Mamdani has a majority of the voters who are saying that is the most important issue. But it is a big issue in this race. So that is one thing to work on. Also, when you look at Mamdani, while he does have positive numbers in his favorability, people like him, but there are roughly 2 in 10 likely voters who say they haven't heard enough about him to make up their minds about him. So that leaves you with some voters who are persuadable. And who is going to define Mamdani? Is it going to be himself, or is it going to be another candidate? So there is some room there among voters.
Yeah, maybe a ray of hope for Andrew Cuomo. And by the way, it seemed like there was also an age gap, even with top issues, because young people put affordable housing as their #1 issue. And for other age ranges, it was safety or crime, I guess, specifically.
Yes, there is a big gap when you look at the age group. And another big issue among young voters, besides housing affordability, inflation, but also healthcare, is a big issue for those voters.
All right, I think we're going to leave it there. Mary Snow, Quinnipiac University, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.